The massive crystal spires of the Galactic Council stretched endlessly into the void of space, their surfaces gleaming with the cold light of distant stars. Inside the main chamber, beings from across the galaxy had gathered for what they considered a routine meeting. High Admiral Vextar stood at the center of the circular room, his towering form casting long shadows across the floor. His 4 yellow eyes moved slowly as they scanned the holographic display floating before him. "Earth," he said, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. The word hung in the air like a death sentence. A small blue planet in the Outer Rim territories. Population approximately 7 billion organic life forms. Primitive carbon-based creatures who have barely managed to leave their own atmosphere. The assembled council members shifted in their seats, some floating in energy fields, others perched on crystalline platforms designed for their unique anatomies. They had heard this speech thousands of times before, targeting thousands of different worlds across the galaxy. It was always the same story. Vextar's clawed hand gestured toward the spinning image of Earth. Their technology level places them at barely 2.7 on the galactic development scale. They have achieved basic space travel within their own system, but lack faster-than-light capabilities. Their weapons are chemical-based projectiles and primitive nuclear devices. Intelligence reports indicate they spend most of their time fighting among themselves over resources and territory. A few council members made sounds that might have been laughter if they had possessed vocal cords capable of such expressions. The Hegemony Alliance had conquered civilizations far more advanced than this backwater planet. Some had possessed energy shields, plasma weapons, and even basic interstellar travel capabilities. All had fallen within days of the first assault. "Estimated pacification time?" asked Counselor Zephyrin, his tentacles waving with mild curiosity. 72 standard hours, Vextar replied without hesitation. Possibly less if their surrender comes quickly after the initial orbital bombardment. The psychological impact typically breaks primitive species within the first day. The council members nodded their various heads, appendages and energy patterns in agreement. It was standard procedure. Arrive in overwhelming force, destroy several population centers from orbit, then wait for the inevitable surrender. Most species never even attempted to fight back. Those that did rarely lasted more than a few hours against hegemony technology. "Authorization granted," announced the council speaker, a being of pure energy whose voice echoed through quantum frequencies. "Begin pacification operations immediately." Meanwhile, on the planet they had just condemned, Lieutenant Colonel Kim Day sat in a reinforced bunker 300 meters beneath the bustling streets of Seoul. The underground facility hummed with activity as dozens of military personnel monitored screens filled with data streams from satellites, ground stations, and listening posts scattered across the globe. 4 months, ever since the first extraterrestrial signals had been detected by radio telescopes, Earth's governments had been quietly preparing for this moment. Kim Day was a compact man in his 40s, with graying hair and eyes that had seen too many conflicts. He had served in 3 different wars before being assigned to what everyone called the alien desk, a position most officers considered career suicide until recent events had proved its importance. "Contact in T-30 minutes, reported Major Park Jean from her station. "Satellite tracking confirms 15 large vessels approaching Earth orbit from multiple vectors." Kim Day nodded, his fingers drumming against the metal surface of his desk. Unlike the chaos that would soon erupt on the surface, the bunker remained calm and focused. Every person here had been handpicked for their ability to function under extreme pressure. The first impact came at exactly 1400 hours local time. The ground above them shook as if struck by a massive earthquake, and emergency lights bathed the bunker in red illumination. Klaxons wailed as reports flooded in from around the globe. "Sir." Sergeant Lee Ho called out from his communication station, his young face pale but determined. "Confirmed orbital bombardment of major population centers. New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow, they're all under attack. We're receiving similar reports from every military installation worldwide." Kim Day stood and walked to the main tactical display, which showed a real-time map of Earth with red markers indicating impact sites. The aliens were following a predictable pattern, striking the largest cities first to maximize psychological impact and cripple command structures. What they didn't know was that Earth's governments had learned from humanity's own history of warfare. The real command centers were hidden, the populations of major cities had been quietly evacuated over the past weeks under the cover of emergency drills, and the military forces were dispersed and concealed. "Activate Protocol 7, Kim Day ordered, his voice carrying throughout the bunker. All units worldwide are to implement asymmetric defense strategies immediately. We are not fighting this war on their terms. Within minutes, confirmation signals began arriving from military units across the globe. Hidden missile batteries emerged from camouflaged positions. Submarines launched modified ICBMs equipped with experimental warheads. Fighter squadrons that had been concealed in underground hangars took to the skies with weapons specifically designed to target alien technology. Above ground, the aliens had expected to find burning cities filled with panicking civilians begging for mercy. Instead, they discovered empty urban centers and defensive positions that began systematically targeting their landing craft. Surface-to-air missiles, hastily modified with new guidance systems based on captured alien signal patterns, streaked upward toward the descending enemy vessels. High Admiral Vextar received the first casualty reports while still aboard his command ship in high orbit. 3 landing craft destroyed, 2 more damaged, minimal ground forces successfully deployed. His 4 eyes narrowed as he studied the tactical readouts. Unusual resistance patterns, he muttered to his aide. These primitives are proving slightly more troublesome than anticipated. But it was only the beginning. The sun rose over what had once been the busy port city of Busan, but now the skyline was broken by twisted metal and smoking craters. Captain Park Jin stood among the wreckage of an alien scout ship, his boots crunching on scattered debris that glowed with strange blue energy. The crash site had become an outdoor laboratory where dozens of human engineers worked day and night to understand their enemy's technology. Park Jin was a tall man with calloused hands who had spent 15 years fixing military equipment before the invasion began. Now he found himself leading the most important engineering project in human history. Around him, his team carefully removed pieces of alien machinery, each component tagged and catalogued for study. "Captain, you need to see this," called Chief Engineer Choi Min from inside the damaged spacecraft. She was a small woman with short black hair who could take apart any machine and put it back together better than before. Oil stains covered her work clothes, and her face was streaked with grease, but her eyes sparkled with excitement. Park Jin climbed through the hole torn in the ship's hull during the crash landing 3 weeks earlier. Inside, the alien vessel looked nothing like human spacecraft. Curved walls pulsed with soft light, and strange symbols covered every surface. But Choi Min had stripped away much of the outer covering to reveal the inner workings. "Look at this power core," she said, pointing to a crystalline structure the size of a car battery. "It produces incredible amounts of energy, but the design is wasteful. They're losing at least 30% of the power through heat and radiation. Our fusion reactors are actually more efficient." Park Jin knelt beside her to examine the device more closely. "How is that possible? This technology should be centuries ahead of ours." Choi Min wiped her hands on a dirty rag and shook her head. "That's just it. It is centuries ahead of ours. Maybe thousands of years ahead. But they stopped improving it a long time ago. This design is ancient. They've been using the same basic systems for so long that they forgot how to make them better." Across the globe, similar discoveries were being made in dozens of crash sites and captured alien facilities. Human engineers and scientists were learning that their enemies possessed incredibly advanced technology, but technology that had remained unchanged for millennia. The aliens had grown comfortable with their superiority and had stopped innovating. Meanwhile, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains of North America, General Nam Su stood before a massive wall of monitors in what had become the unified command center for Earth's defense. The underground facility buzzed with activity as officers from every nation worked together to coordinate the global war effort. Nam Su was a compact woman in her 50s who had earned her rank through 3 decades of military service. She had fought in conflicts on 4 continents before being chosen to lead humanity's most desperate battle. Her gray hair was pulled back in a practical bun, and her uniform bore the patches of a dozen different countries, a symbol of Earth's unprecedented unity. "Daily briefing begins now," she announced to the assembled officers and the video screens showing commanders from around the world. "European Theater Report." Colonel Yang Bin's face appeared on the main screen. He was broadcasting from a hidden bunker somewhere in the Alps, his background showing maps covered with tactical markings. "Ma'am, our forces have successfully captured 3 more intact alien vehicles in the past 48 hours. The technology gap is closing faster than anyone projected." Nam Su nodded, making notes on her electronic tablet. "Explain." "We're learning to predict their attack patterns," Yang Bin continued. "The aliens use the same tactics they've probably used for thousands of years. Once we figured out their playbook, we could set traps. Yesterday, French and German units working together destroyed an entire alien patrol using weapons we built from salvaged parts. Similar reports came in from other theaters. In Asia, Japanese and Korean forces had developed new anti-aircraft missiles that could track alien ships through their energy signatures. In Africa, combined forces from 6 nations had captured an alien supply depot intact, providing tons of equipment for reverse engineering. In Australia, Aboriginal trackers were using traditional hunting techniques to locate hidden alien outposts, then calling in strikes from human aircraft upgraded with alien technology. But the most shocking news came from South America. On the screen, Lieutenant Santos appeared, broadcasting from a temporary command post in the Amazon rainforest. Behind him, smoke rose from what had obviously been a major battle. "General Nam Su, I'm proud to report that Corporal Han Sol's unit has achieved something remarkable," Santos said, barely able to contain his excitement. "They have successfully shot down a Hegemony command frigate." The entire command center fell silent. Command frigates were massive warships that served as mobile headquarters for alien military operations. They were heavily armored and protected by energy shields that had previously proven immune to human weapons. "How?" Namsu asked. Santos smiled. "Corporal Han Sol is a mechanical engineer who used to work on oil drilling equipment. When his unit found the wreckage of 2 alien fighters, he spent 6 days building a new type of weapon. He combined their energy projectors with our missile guidance systems and a power source he made from salvaged alien batteries." The camera switched to show Corporal Han Sol, a young man with dirt on his face and exhaustion in his eyes, standing next to a device that looked like it had been built in someone's garage. It was a mixture of alien crystals, human electronics, and military hardware, all held together with welding and determination. "It took 17 shots," Han Sol explained simply. "But we learned something new with each miss. By the time we hit the target, we understood their shield frequencies well enough to punch right through them." Hundreds of light-years away, High Admiral Vextar stood in his command chamber reviewing battle reports that made no sense according to everything he knew about warfare. The holographic displays showed human resistance that was not weakening as expected, but actually growing stronger with each passing day. "Impossible," he muttered, his 4 eyes scanning casualty figures that climbed higher every day. "They should have surrendered by now. Every species surrenders within the first week. It is the natural response to superior force. But these humans were proving to be unlike every other species the hegemony had ever encountered. Instead of breaking under pressure, they seemed to thrive on it." Deep beneath the streets of Tokyo, where subway trains once carried millions of passengers through tunnels carved from rock and concrete, Dr. Shinha stared at the screen that displayed streams of alien symbols flowing like digital waterfalls. The abandoned subway station had been converted into a secret laboratory where humanity's brightest minds worked around the clock to crack the mysteries of their invaders. Shinha was a small woman with tired eyes who had spent her entire career studying language patterns and communication systems. Before the invasion, she had been a professor who translated ancient texts and taught students about dead civilizations. Now she was humanity's key to understanding living aliens who wanted to destroy her world. The tunnel walls were lined with servers and quantum processors salvaged from universities across Japan, all connected by cables that snaked across the floor like electronic vines. The air hummed with the sound of cooling fans and the quiet clicking of keyboards as dozens of linguists, mathematicians, and computer scientists worked to decode intercepted alien transmissions. "Dr. Shinha," called her assistant, a young graduate student named Kenji who had been working without sleep for 3 days. "The pattern recognition software is showing new matches in the command frequency range." Shinha moved quickly to his workstation, her heart racing with the possibility of another breakthrough. 4 months, they had been slowly piecing together the alien language by analyzing captured communication devices and comparing signal patterns. It was like trying to solve a puzzle where most of the pieces were missing and the picture kept changing. The screen showed waves of energy that represented alien speech, with human translations appearing below in green text. As Shinha watched, the computer began translating faster and faster, the green words flowing across the display in real time. "Supply Convoy 7 requires additional escort ships for the primitive system operation," appeared on the screen. Then, Hegemony Command confirms minimal resistance expected from target planet inhabitants. Shinha felt her breath catch in her throat. "We're in," she announced to the assembled team of scientists and military personnel who had gathered around her station. "We can hear everything they're saying." The room erupted in cheers and applause, but Shinha was already scrolling through hours of intercepted communications. What she discovered made her blood run cold. According to the alien messages, Earth had been attacked by what they called a pacification patrol, essentially a small police force sent to deal with primitive troublemakers. The aliens had been so confident in their superiority that they had sent only a fraction of their available forces. The invasion fleet that had been fighting humanity for 6 months was considered by the Galactic Council to be barely worth mentioning in their official reports. But as Shin-Ha continued reading the translated messages, she realized something else. The aliens were becoming worried. Their casualty reports were climbing, their supply lines were being disrupted, and their commanders were requesting reinforcements for what should have been a simple operation. Colonel Park, Shin-Ha called to the military liaison assigned to her team. I need to speak with Earth Command immediately. We have a problem, but we also have an opportunity. 3 weeks later, Captain Kim Soo sat in the pilot seat of a spacecraft that should not have existed. The vessel around her was a mixture of human engineering and alien technology, built in secret facilities hidden beneath the Australian outback. Human welding held together alien hull plates, while hybrid engines that no textbook had ever described prepared to carry her farther from Earth than any human had ever traveled. Kim Soo was a former fighter pilot who had been shot down twice during the early days of the invasion. Each time, she had managed to survive behind enemy lines and make her way back to human forces with valuable intelligence about alien operations. When Earth Command decided to launch humanity's first interstellar military operation, there had been no question about who would lead it. All systems green, reported her engineer, Lieutenant Park, who had somehow managed to make alien faster-than-light drives work with human navigation computers. Jump drive is ready for activation. Around them, 5 other hybrid vessels prepared for the same impossible journey. Each ship carried a crew of volunteers who understood that they might not return from this mission. But they also understood that this attack could change the course of the war. All units, this is Phoenix Leader, Kim Soo transmitted to the small fleet. Remember what we learned from the intercepted communications. We're not just fighting for Earth anymore. We're showing the galaxy what happens when you underestimate humanity. The sensation of faster-than-light travel was unlike anything any human had experienced before. Reality seemed to stretch and compress around them as the hybrid ships crossed distances that would have taken conventional spacecraft thousands of years to travel. When the journey ended, they found themselves in orbit around a red dwarf star in the Proxima Centauri system. Below them lay their target, a massive space station that served as a supply depot for hegemony operations in this region of the galaxy. According to intercepted communications, the facility was lightly defended because the aliens never expected anyone to attack their rear areas. The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The hegemony defenders had superior numbers and more advanced individual weapons, but they had never faced enemies who combined alien technology with human tactical thinking. Human crews had spent months studying alien weaknesses and developing new strategies that no galactic military academy had ever taught. Kim Soo led her fighters in attack patterns that confused alien pilots who had been trained to expect predictable maneuvers. Her ships moved in ways that alien sensors couldn't track, using techniques developed by human pilots who had learned to survive against superior enemies through creativity and determination. Within hours, the supply depot was burning wreckage drifting through space. Most of its defenders were dead, and the survivors were fleeing toward the outer system in whatever ships could still fly. Back at Galactic Council headquarters, emergency alarms that had been silent for over 1,000 years began wailing throughout the crystalline halls. High Admiral Vextar stood before a communication display showing the final transmission from the Proxima depot, his 4 eyes wide with something that might have been fear. The message was simple: under attack by unknown vessels using hybrid technology. Defenses overwhelmed. Station lost. They left their system, Vextar whispered to himself. The primitives have achieved interstellar warfare. For the first time in his long military career, the High Admiral began to wonder if the hegemony had made a terrible mistake. The great crystal dome of the Galactic Council chamber had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations over millions of years, but never had it contained such chaos as erupted on this day. Beings from across the galaxy spoke in hundreds of different languages, their voices creating a symphony of panic and confusion that echoed through the vast space. Counselor Ralseth of the Kethmori Union stood on his speaking platform, his insect-like body trembling with rage. His species communicated through rapid clicking sounds that translated as screaming when they were angry, and today he was angrier than anyone had ever seen him. 17 installations destroyed in the past month, he chittered, his compound eyes flashing with fury. Food production facilities, mining operations, communication relays, all gone. These humans appear everywhere at once like some kind of plague. How is this possible from a species we classified as primitive just 1 year ago? Other council members joined their voices to his complaints. The Hegemony Alliance, which had controlled this region of the galaxy for over 10,000 years, was being systematically dismantled by an enemy that had not even possessed faster-than-light travel when the invasion of Earth began. High Admiral Vextar stood at the center of the chamber, his four eyes moving constantly as he tried to address the growing panic around him. Battle reports continued to arrive every few minutes, each one describing another impossible victory by human forces that seemed to be operating throughout hegemony space simultaneously. The enemy has divided their forces into small, independent fleets, he explained to the assembled counselors. They strike without warning, destroy their targets completely, and disappear before our response forces can arrive. Their tactics are unlike anything we have encountered in recorded galactic history. Meanwhile, in the Vega star system, Admiral Ko Jun stood on the bridge of her flagship as her liberation fleet finished securing the mining colonies that had been enslaved by the hegemony for 3 centuries. Ko Jun was a tall woman with scars on her hands from her early days as a spacecraft mechanic, back when humanity was still confined to their home system. Around her, the bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency. Half of them were human, but the other half belonged to alien species that had joined the growing rebellion against hegemony rule. The mixing of different technologies and tactical philosophies had created a fighting force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral, all hegemony forces in the system have been eliminated or have surrendered, reported Commander Singh, a former Indian Air Force pilot who now commanded a squadron of hybrid fighters. The mining facilities are secure, and we've freed approximately 40,000 alien workers. Ko Jun nodded and activated the ship's communication system. Her voice would be broadcast not only to the liberated colonies, but throughout hegemony space via captured relay stations that had been secretly modified by human technical teams. "This is Admiral Ko Jun of the Earth Liberation Fleet," she began, her words being simultaneously translated into hundreds of alien languages. "To all beings who can hear this message, the mining colonies of the Vega system have been liberated. The workers who were enslaved here are now free. Any species or individuals who wish to join our cause against the hegemony oppressors are welcome in our ranks." The psychological impact of these broadcasts was proving to be as devastating as the military victories themselves. Throughout hegemony space, species that had been conquered centuries ago were learning that their oppressors could be defeated. Some began organizing resistance movements. Others simply stopped obeying hegemony orders and waited for human liberation fleets to arrive. In a converted asteroid base that had once served as a hegemony weapons factory, technical specialist Limda worked with her mixed team of human and alien engineers to design the next generation of liberation fleet vessels. Limda was a small woman who had spent her pre-war career designing manufacturing robots, but the invasion had transformed her into one of humanity's most important military assets. The workshop around her looked like something from a science fiction movie. Alien machinery hummed alongside human tools, while holographic displays showed ship designs that combined technologies from dozens of different civilizations. Her team included former hegemony slaves who possessed knowledge of advanced engineering principles, working alongside human innovators who approached every problem from completely new angles. "The key to our success," she explained to a group of newly arrived alien defectors, "is that the hegemony stopped innovating long ago. They've been using the same basic ship designs, the same weapons, the same tactics for thousands of years. They became comfortable with their superiority and forgot how to improve." She gestured to a sleek fighter craft that looked nothing like either human or alien designs. "We've been building new technology for less than 2 years, but we're already surpassing their capabilities because we never stop learning and adapting. Every battle teaches us something new, and we use that knowledge to build better weapons and ships." One of the alien engineers, a reptilian being whose species had been enslaved for over a millennium, shook his head in amazement. "My people tried to resist the hegemony for generations. We never thought it was possible to actually defeat them." "That's because you tried to fight them using their own methods," Limda replied. "We're fighting them using methods they've never seen before. And every time they think they understand our tactics, we change them." Back at Galactic Council headquarters, High Admiral Vextar found himself in the unprecedented position of requesting massive reinforcements for what had begun as a simple police action. The primitive species from Earth had become a threat to the stability of the entire galactic order. "I am authorizing the deployment of the 3rd and 7th Battle Fleets," he announced to his staff officers. "We will crush this human rebellion before it spreads further." But when the reinforcements arrived at their target system, they found the humans waiting for them. The battle was swift and decisive, and when it ended, 2 of the hegemony's most powerful fleets had been destroyed or captured. The primitives from Earth had become masters of the galaxy. The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber had opened countless times throughout history to admit defeated species begging for mercy, conquered races offering tribute, or primitive civilizations seeking protection from stronger neighbors. But today, for the first time in recorded galactic history, they opened to admit representatives of a species that had arrived not as victims, but as victors. Fleet Admiral Park So walked through the entrance with steady steps, her military uniform bearing the insignia of Earth's United Forces and the scars of 18 months of interstellar warfare. She was a woman in her 50s who had earned her rank through decades of service, first in her nation's navy and then in humanity's desperate fight for survival. Behind her walked General O'Gene, whose tactical brilliance had turned the tide of countless battles, and Chief Diplomat Song Mi, whose skill with languages had helped forge alliances with dozens of liberated alien species. The three humans moved calmly through the vast chamber, passing between rows of alien representatives who watched them with mixtures of fear, curiosity, and respect. Many of these beings had never seen a human before, having only heard reports of the species that had somehow defeated the mighty Hegemony Alliance. Some leaned forward in their seats to get a better look at these strange bipedal creatures who had rewritten the rules of galactic warfare. The chamber itself was a marvel of crystal architecture, its walls reaching up into darkness while holographic displays showed star maps and political boundaries that had remained unchanged for thousands of years. At least, they had remained unchanged until 18 months ago when a small blue planet called Earth had been marked for routine pacification. Fleet Admiral Park So reached the center of the chamber and stopped before the raised platform where the council speaker waited. The ancient being of pure energy that served as the voice of galactic law had presided over the rise and fall of countless civilizations, but had never before faced a situation quite like this one. Honored counselors, Park So began, her voice carrying clearly through the vast space despite its normal conversational tone. 18 months ago, your Hegemony Alliance made a grave error in judgment. You attacked our world believing us to be primitive and weak. You expected us to surrender within days as so many other species had done before us. She paused, allowing her words to translate through the chamber's communication systems into the hundreds of languages represented in the assembly. When she continued, her tone remained calm but carried an unmistakable authority. Today we are here to discuss the terms of peace. A murmur ran through the assembled aliens, the sound of thousands of different species expressing surprise in their own ways. Many had expected the humans to demand unconditional surrender or to begin dictating harsh terms of conquest. Instead, they were offering to negotiate. Park So gestured to General O'Gene, who stepped forward and activated a holographic display that showed the current state of what had once been hegemony space. Nearly half of their former territory was now colored in blue, indicating systems under human control or protection. Our terms are as follows, O'Gene announced, his voice steady and professional. First, immediate cessation of all hostile activities against Earth, human forces, and our allied species. Second, recognition of human sovereignty over all territories we have liberated from hegemony control. Third, full reparations for the damage caused to Earth during your unprovoked invasion. Fourth, establishment of humanity as a permanent member of this galactic council with full voting rights equal to any other member species. The chamber erupted in a chaos of alien voices as representatives from thousands of worlds discussed these demands in hundreds of languages. Some seemed outraged by the audacity of the humans, while others appeared relieved that the terms were not more severe. After all, the humans had demonstrated their ability to destroy entire star systems when provoked. Counselor Vethmar of the ancient Nexary Collective slowly rose from his seat, his ancient form supported by anti-gravity fields that had kept him alive for over 3,000 years. His voice trembled not just with age, but with the weight of a question that haunted every alien present in the chamber. How did we misjudge you so completely? He asked, his words carrying the confusion and fear of an entire galactic civilization that had suddenly discovered they were not as superior as they had believed. General O'Gene stepped forward to answer, his expression serious but not unkind. You evaluated us based on our technology level and our peaceful nature. You saw that we had not developed faster than light travel, that we spent most of our time fighting small conflicts among ourselves rather than expanding across the stars. You concluded that we were weak and primitive. He paused, looking around the chamber at the thousands of alien faces watching him. You never considered that we simply hadn't been given a reason to show you what we were truly capable of. Humans have always been at their best when facing impossible odds. You gave us the greatest challenge in our species' history, and we responded the way humans always do, by adapting, learning, and refusing to give up. The council speaker's energy form pulsed with what might have been resignation. The terms are acceptable, it announced in its quantum voice. All in favor of accepting the human peace proposal? The vote was unanimous. Not a single member of the Galactic Council voted against the treaty. As the human delegation prepared to leave the chamber, Chief Diplomat Songmi requested permission to address the assembly one final time. Her voice was softer than her military companions, but it carried just as much authority. The galaxy has changed today, she said, her words being recorded by systems that would carry them to every civilized world in known space. Humanity doesn't seek conquest or domination. We seek cooperation, mutual respect, and peaceful coexistence with all sentient species. She paused, her gaze moving across the assembled aliens. But let this serve as a warning to all who might consider threatening innocent worlds in the future. We will never again allow ourselves or our allies to be attacked without cause. The age of easy conquest is over. Any species that chooses aggression over diplomacy will find that the galaxy now contains defenders willing and able to stand against them. In the months that followed, alien historians throughout the galaxy struggled to understand how a species they had classified as barely spacefaring had managed to defeat the most powerful military alliance in galactic history. Universities across thousands of worlds began studying human history, trying to comprehend how this young species had developed such remarkable abilities for warfare, innovation, and survival. The answer, when they finally understood it, was both simple and terrifying. Humanity had not just survived their challenge, they had thrived on it. And in winning their freedom, they had transformed the galaxy forever.